Chairman, it's Helen Snell, meeting producer. I can confirm that you're now live and ready to proceed. Thanks.
And welcome to this virtual meeting of the West Sub-Area Planning Committee. Before consideration of today's business, I'll outline the protocols for the meeting. Today's meeting is being live streamed to the public via Microsoft Teams and is also being recorded. When members are speaking, they may choose to use their video. If the Council's live stream fails during the meeting and we cannot share the proceedings, I'll adjourn the meeting so that the access can be restored. If the issue cannot be resolved, I'll halt the meeting and the remaining business will be concluded at a future date. If a member experiences a technical issue, I'll adjourn for a short period to try and re-establish their connection. As I call members to speak, I'll remind you to switch on your microphone. If for some reason you cannot be heard, the Democratic officer will advise you. The vote will be taken by roll call of committee members by the Democratic officers. I'll remind you that members must be present for the duration of the discussion on each planning application in order to be able to vote. We have public speakers at the meeting today and they will be joining the meeting by telephone. Where a member has declared a non-registrable interest, a disclosable pecuniary interest, or an interest by virtue of any trade union membership in the matter, they must leave the virtual meeting. Their departure will be confirmed and they'll be invited to rejoin the meeting at the appropriate time. To confirm the procedure of today's meeting is that members of the committee who wish to speak on an item should indicate by using the raise your hand function, which is being monitored by the Vice Chair. Any members not on the committee or unable to use the raise your hand function who wish to ask a question should indicate by typing X in the chat box. Before we start today's business, I'll ask the Democratic Services Officer to ask committee members to confirm they are present and to state their electoral division. Over to you, Angela.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll start with you.
Yeah, it's Roger Harding, Newlyn Mousel Division.
Thank you. Councillor Eakin-Smith.
Good morning, David Eakin-Smith, Vice Chair and representing the 11th Division.
Thank you. Councillor Bastin.
Good morning, John Bastin, Cornwall Councillor for Constantine, Monan and Budop.
Thank you. Councillor Biggs.
Good morning, Dave Biggs, Camborne Treswithian.
Councillor Code.
Good morning, Graham Code, Councillor for Hale South.
Councillor Hurd.
Good morning, Councillor for Camborne Pendorvis Division.
Councillor Kaczmarek.
Councillor Kaczmarek, Cornwall Councillor for Caharrick, St Anne Gwinnett.
Councillor Martin.
Good morning, Councillor John Martin for Helston South.
Councillor Nicholas.
Good morning, Councillor Sue Nicholas for Marzine and Perranathnow.
Councillor Pascoe.
Good morning, everyone. Councillor Lionel Pascoe for Gwynedd Gwyddian and St Earth.
Councillor Simmons.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Councillor Simmons from representing Penryn East and Moyler.
Councillor John Thomas.
Good morning, Cornwall Councillor John Thomas, Lander and Stillians, Cornwall Councillor.
And Councillor Mike Thomas.
Good morning, Councillor Mike Thomas representing Helston North.
I'll just outline the officers that are present. We have Mark Broomhead, Chantal McLennan, Martin Jose, Diane Boardman and James Mosley from Planning, Ben Curnow from Legal, Robin Watson from Highways and myself, Angela Saunders from Democratic Services. Thank you, Chairman.
Right, thank you. So with that, we go on to agenda item 1. That's apologies. Are there any apologies?
Yeah, I've had one from Councillor Duffin.
Right, thank you. Agenda item 2 is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations? No. Right. agenda item 3, that's the minutes of the previous meeting. If some, what I'll do is I'll go through the minutes page by page, and then I'll ask for somebody to move that they be accepted. So we go on to page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 and 20. So is somebody like to move the accuracy of the minutes? Is that Councillor Thomas?
It is, Chairman.
Thomas? Yeah, so it's been moved and seconded by both Councillor Thomases. So all those in favour to move that the accuracy is correct, please show. Let's raise your hands. Yeah.
Yeah, Chairman, I can confirm that that's been approved.
Yeah.
Councillor Thomas here. Sorry, just raised my hand. I need to abstain because I left the meeting for a funeral.
Yeah. Right. Thank you. So, anyone against? And we've got the one abstention from Councillor Thomas. You okay with that, Angela?
Two abstentions, please, Chairman. Dave Biggs abstaining.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Angela. So with that, we go on to agenda item 4, applications for consideration. We've got 4 applications today, and the first one is 4.1, which is PA 20/09916. Mr. A. Punter, Mullion Gymnastics Centre, Trembell Lane, Mullion. It's on pages 21 to 34. I think, Martin, you're taking us through that one?
Yes, I am. Hopefully,
you hear me okay? And,
yes, I can.
You're sharing your screen with us, so we can see that okay.
Yeah.
So we can hear you and we can see your screen. So when you're ready.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. So this application seeks demolition of an existing portal frame structure, which is currently in use for a gymnasium, and the construction of 2 dwellings, and also the retention of a manager's accommodation for use as an unrestricted residential dwelling. So the key issues in this case are the principle of development of housing on this site, the impact on the character of the area, and access and highway safety issues. So the site is located at Mullion, just to the south of the main village. You can see the Mullion Secondary School to the east of the site. And the site's just located here, outlined in red, with the site access located here, which is access through Tregallis Road, which links on to the main Meaver Road here, which is the main road coming into Mullion. Just a closer view of the site, just so you can see it in context. So this existing gym building here, and then you've got the existing manager's accommodation, which is just adjoining the building. And then the site of the 2 houses which have recently been constructed, which is set out in the report, just located to the south of the site here. And you can see the school building and all its grounds around it. Just turning to an aerial view, just so you can see the aerial site in context, seeing the large building, existing portal frame building, and you can just see the roof lines of the recently constructed buildings and the manager's dwellings on the site. So turning now to the plans. So you've got the existing layout plan at the top here, just showing the large open structure, and then the manager's dwelling adjoining it below with garage and associated living accommodation. So the proposal seeks to completely demolish the portal frame structure, and looking at the bottom image below, you can see the layout of the proposed 2 new dwellings. So 2 detached 3-bedroom dwellings, parking to the front and gardens to the rear. The remainder space here would become residential garden for the existing manager, what is the existing manager's accommodation, effectively being a third dwelling. So the existing plans, so here you can see the existing manager's accommodation, and the existing building here, which is the gym building. That's just a closer up view, just to show it's an open plan gymnasium building, associated toilets and changing areas, which are in manager's accommodation. So the proposed plans are 2 detached 2-storey properties. As I said previously, 3 bedrooms on the ground floor of each property, and open plan living accommodation at first floor. And here you can see a context view, so you can see the 2 proposed dwellings, parking to the front, and the existing manager's accommodation, which would be retained as a new open market dwelling. Just turning to the site photos. So this is the site photos from Tregellis Lane, looking along the access down to the site. So you can see the school grounds just behind at the back of the image here. And then turning to the top right image, this is just looking out of the site access where the cars parked there. Just to show you in context the existing housing that surrounds the site. And then going to the bottom 2 images, these are looking back up the lane with the school on your right hand side, just showing the access lane and houses on the western side, which back onto it and also use the access for domestic access. So moving down to the site, so as previously stated, this is the manager's accommodation, which is proposed to be sought to be retained as an open market property, effectively lifting the restriction. And the gym building here, which is to be demolished. And you can see along the access here, which is the local footpath going down, and then open countryside beyond to the south and the west over there. And then just so you can see this existing gym building, of what type of structure it is, just an existing portal framed structure, metal clad. And then this is looking back up the access, as we saw a second ago, and the manager's accommodation here, and the 2 existing newly built properties. Just to show a bit of context, looking back, you can see the existing properties further back of the housing estate to the north. And then just spinning round, just so you can see the recently constructed properties. So the design of the 2 new properties reflects taking some of the characteristics of these properties. So the key issues and the balance of considerations in this case are the loss of the facility. Obviously it's currently in use as a gym. This is now closed down. There's no plans to currently reopen it. The site is previously developed land on the edge of the village. Access to the site and the building's location makes it considered unsuitable for other commercial uses due to the access through a narrow lane in the residential area and the adjoining existing residential properties. The new dwellings will be in keeping with existing properties and not extend the built form into the countryside. So the key issues to assess are the loss of this commercial space, of whether it serves a local facility, and the impact on the AONB. But in this case, it's considered the provision of the new dwellings is quite key, in that there's no justifiable reason to resist development, so it's recommended for approval. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Martin. We have got speakers on this one. The first one is Councillor John Lang from Mullion Parish Council. I don't know, can you hear me, Councillor Lang?
Oh, good morning, Chairman. Yes.
Good morning. It'll be the usual format. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and then we'll give you a prompt when it's 30 seconds to go, and your time will start from when you start speaking. So once you're comfortable, start speaking, and it's over to you.
An application at this site in 2014, revised in 2015, indicated that the caretaker's apartment plus residential units for visiting athletes, which are now open market housing, were deemed essential in order to satisfy the continual and rapidly developing needs of Mullion Gym, stated to be growing all the time. The caretaker's manager's flats, and I quote, was inextricably linked to the gymnasium and will become central to its future development. Why this theoretically vibrant club went into decline is not entirely clear, possibly due to a low client base in a remote location, construction costs, or perhaps the principals were distracted by a newer, much larger and presumably lucrative gym venture in Penryn, but the end result was failure in Mullion. This, however, provided a platform which has allowed the applicant, a well-known local builder, to apply for alternative development in his own site. The current application would add 2 more reverse-level properties and legitimise the manager's flat as unfettered accommodation, creating an unsightly cluster of 5 units, 4 of which will be high-value open market houses, in an area which has always been rejected for either business or residential development and which lies in the beautiful unspoilt Trembell Valley outside the accepted village development boundary. Policy 2 of the local plan sets out a sustainable approach with regard to growth and maintenance of dispersed development. Policy 3, Criteria 4, explains that within AONB, development would only be supported where the proposal would conserve and enhance the landscape character and natural beauty of the AONB. Policies 12 and 13 require that development respects the character of its settings, promotes local distinctiveness, and conserves and enhances the distinctive natural character of the AONB. None of these are met. Situated in the highest point in the parish with far-reaching views, according to the sales pitch for the recently constructed semi-detached properties, advertised at £450,000 each or £850,000 for both, the site is prominently visible from many directions, including from the southwest coastal footpath, almost 2 miles distant. The Parish Council requests this application is refused and that any further application for development in Trembell Valley is rejected. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. If you could just wait, just in case we've got some questions from the committee. Are there any questions for Councillor Lang?
I can't see any, Chairman.
Right, thank you, David. Thank you, Councillor Lang. Thank you very much for attending this morning's meeting. The next speaker is Mr. Adrian Punter. Can you hear me, Mr. Punter?
Hello, Chairman. It's Angela from Democratic Services. I had to mute Mr. Punter as we were getting some background noise. So, Mr. Punter, if you can hear me, can you please press *6 on your telephone keypad and that will unmute you.
Can you hear me, Mr. Punter?
Yeah, he's still on mute at the moment. Mr. Punter, could you press *6 on your telephone keypad, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Good morning, Mr. Punter. You'll have 3 minutes to speak as normal, and we'll give you a prompt at 30 seconds, and your time will start from when you start speaking. So when you're ready, it's over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, good morning, Chairman and Councillors. Yes, I am the applicant, and obviously thank you for allowing me time to speak today. Your report recommending approval of my application goes through the deciding issues in great detail, so I'm just simply going to emphasise a few key points. Yes, for some 10 years, my wife and I operated a private gym in our building, standing on the site. Your report outlines our experience in this kind of business. It also explains the attempts and financial input we have made over the years to keep the gym operating. But really, with the numbers using it have fallen significantly. And the pandemic, literally last March, we had to temporarily close. And actually, the person that's been running for the last 3 years, it's decided that it wouldn't open again. In short, the gym, that's in a fairly isolated village in a rural area, is not financially viable. This has been proved by my confidential financial information, which I've provided. You also see from paragraph 13 of the report that there hasn't been any objections from any members of the public or previous members of the gym, to this application. So in other words, really, there's no realistic prospect for the gym business really to continue. In the circumstances, I hope you'll agree that it's in everyone's interest to redevelop the Brainfield site for housing rather than leave it continually unused. Paragraph 27 of your report explains why a different commercial use of the building wouldn't be appropriate. The houses I propose in my application are also acceptable because the site's on the edge of Mullion, next to the school, and visually it will be an enhancement over the present building, resembling the houses approved in 2015. From the valley below, they will also enhance the view over the school, existing school building, and basically recently new erected steel commercial unit on the school premises. Compared to what exists, the proposed houses won't have any different traffic or drainage effects. So I'm really pleased, therefore, I ask you to approve my application as recommended by your officers. And thank you very much for your time.
Right, thank you, Mr. Punter. If you could just wait, just in case we've got some questions for you. Has anybody indicated they've got a question, David?
No questions, Chairman.
Right, thank you very much, Mr. Punter, for attending this morning's meeting. So with that, we go on to the divisional member, which is Councillor Carolyn Rule. Morning, Carolyn. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you, Chairman. Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I would like to add some more points really to those already covered by me in your report today. Firstly, my reasons for bringing this to the committee is not so much the loss of the gym facility. I can understand the commercial reasons for the owners having moved their venture to Penryn, which has a much wider catchment area. My concerns and reasons for asking for your assistance is what is already there because of the gym. This area at the head of Trembell Valley has always been fiercely protected by Mullion Parish Council and myself as the local divisional member from any development. With the success of the gym, which was widespread, we did reluctantly support the building of a caretaker's property and 2 other properties for visiting athletes and their coaches. Within a comparatively short period of this getting consent, the gym has closed. I now understand that the 2 other properties did not have the 106 on them that had been promised and given as a reason for their original permission, so are already being marketed as open market homes, beyond the capability of our local community members to purchase them. I can understand and support the removal of the caretaker's restriction on that one property as the gym is now closed, and accept there is nothing I can do about the other 2 properties, but I urge you not to compound the effect these properties have in such a prominent position by allowing 2 more open market properties here. I would respectfully disagree with the officer's findings in paragraph 3. The business has been closed for a long while. It is missed, but the gym at Penryn is, I understand, very successful. The existing 2 open market, as I now know, properties and the caretaker's bungalows are not for local need or affordable as such. This application before you today seeks to compound the effect on this beautiful area of our village by allowing 2 more houses, again not affordable for the local community. As the gym has been closed for a long while, there will be no reduction in traffic, rather an increase should this application be permitted. On paragraph 10, you will see the Parish Council concerns, and Councillor Lang has already outlined those. Paragraph 11, the countryside access team mention the byway must remain open and accessible at all times. Paragraph 26 is my main one I would like to bring to your attention, if I may. I would like proof that the business has been marketed. I myself have spoken to the headmaster of Mullion School, which you'll see on the drawing there is right adjacent to this, and Mr. Randall tells me he offered to come to the meeting but gave me permission instead to quote him. He tells me that yes, he was approached and that he told Mr. Punter that the school were very interested. However, the applicant changed their mind and pulled out of discussions quite early on. The school were very disappointed as the school doesn't have a sports hall, and therefore they would have been really keen to take on this building. I would like to know if there has been an investigation into creating small workspaces here with a housing estate nearby. Walk to work units could be very useful. This dreadful pandemic has shown us that we do need to find new ways of working, and I feel small work units could be a better way forward. This would provide a genuine use of the site for the community rather than even more harm, in my opinion, of 2 more open market properties. Paragraph 37, the gym has been closed for a long while, so there will be an increase in traffic if any more houses are built here, not less. Bearing in mind all the above, colleagues, I respectfully ask for your help today by refusing this application and requiring the applicant to actively market the empty gym building, preferably to the school, or as small work units for local people. Thank you, colleagues, for listening.
Thank you, Caroline. Are there any questions for Caroline, members?
Yes, Councillor Nicholas, Chairman.
Yeah, Sue, if you'd like to carry on.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just a query. Has any time any affordable housing been offered on this site?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. Were there any further questions for Carolyn?
No, Chairman.
No. Right.
Sorry, yeah, Mike Thomas.
Yeah. Mike.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councillor Rule, for your presentation. did the representative from the parish council, when he was talking about the local plan, was he talking about the sort of Cornwall plan or plan for Mullion Parish? Is there a local plan?
No, we don't have a neighbourhood plan for Mullion Parish. I think that Councillor Lang was referring back to the sort of it isn't actually a line drawn around the villages, but as you can see, this one is apart from that line. The estate very clearly is a field away from the actual gym building, and that was what he was meaning. The applicant lives in a beautiful building opposite the gym and up a little bit, which you can see probably about halfway across that field, and that is a very old building that was there that's it. Thank you, Martin. That building was there predating the actual building of that estate. It was the old farm building from there, but this one is completely out in the countryside.
Thank you very much, Councillor.
Thank you. Were there any further questions, David?
No, Chairman.
Right, with that, we'll open up. Are there any questions for the officers?
Councillor Kaczmarek.
Yeah. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you. Yeah, seeing it so close to the school and quite a substantial building, and these rural schools are growing quite a lot now. Does the council know if the school has approached the owner? The owner approached the school, or is that out of our remit? Because it just seems an ideal site for the school to expand. Who's going to answer that? Screen's frozen.
Thank you. Chairman, do you want me to answer that?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, the screen froze a bit, so I'm assuming you I didn't quite catch all of your question, but it was to do with as the school approached the applicant, and it seems an ideal place for an expansion of the school. Is that what I was understanding?
That's right. It just fits in really well with the school, and you would have thought that the school would be the first choice really before housing. So,
as far as I'm aware, this the first time it's been brought to my attention from Council Rule that the headmaster was interested or been in negotiation. That hasn't been drawn to my attention before. Obviously, if members felt they wanted that investigated, then we'd have to perhaps defer the application to look into that and come back with a clear understanding of what the school were anticipating.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Well, while you're about it, Mark, could you answer Councillor Rule's the question, the work units, BR units?
Yeah, we've put that in our report in terms of looking at the access road and do we want more delivery traffic, etc. That was one of the key points that we took away. And obviously, if members felt that needed to be investigated, I can discuss that further in the debate.
Thank you. Right, David.
Sorry, Roger.
Questions?
Roger, could I just add to Mark's comment?
Is that Martin, is it?
Yes, it's Martin here.
Yeah.
We did consult Mullion School as part of the consultation process. We didn't have any correspondence back from them during that process, just to add that.
Right, thank you. Yeah, David, we've got any further questions?
Yeah, Dave Biggs, Chairman.
Yeah. Over to you, Dave.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. It's kind of a follow-on from Councillor Kaczmarek's question. It's really to do, I mean, the local member, Councillor Rule, has made a very reasonable point, I think, about making the best use of the existing facilities. But I just wonder what our legal powers are in requiring that. And that's probably one for Mr. Kerno from legal. Presumably, all we've got at our disposal is the opportunity to defer this for further discussions, but we couldn't actually enforce further efforts on behalf of the applicant to market the property, presumably.
Yeah, Ben, can you answer that one? Hello, Ben, can you hear us?
Well, I can answer Councillor Biggs in terms of the business side. There is a policy in our local plan that says that if there's no market demand through active continue marketing for at least a period of 9 months. So you have got a policy there. Obviously, that's for members to decide during the debate, and obviously the community facility.
Okay, thank you. Have we got any other speakers, David?
Yeah, I think Councillor Rule wants to speak again, Chair.
Yes, that's fine. Carolyn, do you want to come back?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm sorry, I'm not sure whether I'm allowed to come back or not.
Yeah, you ask a question until
okay. I've got an answer rather than a question. Somebody asked about the school. It's the comprehensive school. It's a big school, this one. And I've got an email from the headmaster because I approached him to ask if they'd been spoken to about it. And I can read that out if you like. It's very short. Hi, Carolyn. Yes, they did approach us and we told them we were interested. However, they changed their mind and pulled out of discussions quite early on. We were very disappointed as the school doesn't have a sports hall, and therefore we would be really keen. So that might be any help to clarify that one, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Have we got any further questions, David?
No, Chairman.
No. Has any of the officers got any further questions or comments they might want to make before we go into committee?
No, fine. Thank you, Chairman.
No. Okay then. So we go into the committee. Over to members, any comments you want to make, and eventually we'd like to have a proposal. So over to you, members. Councillor Kaczmarek, I can see.
Yep.
Yeah, over to you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think if we kept it as a sports hall, which is what it is and what it got planning permission for, it wouldn't need a change of use of the school. So I think at the moment, because of the local concern and the interest shown by Mullion School, I think we should defer this and see if the building can be used for what it was built for as a sports hall. So I would have it deferred, move deferral, Chairman.
Yeah, is there a seconder for Mark?
We've got,
yes, Dave Biggs. Yes, I would support that.
Yeah, right, thank you. Right, so did you want to speak, Dave?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I fully support what Mark has just said. It seems to me quite reasonable that we should make every effort to make the best use of the existing facilities, particularly for the use of the community and the school. And I think it would be quite reasonable that we actually defer this for further discussions to take place. So I would support that entirely.
Yeah. Right. Have you any other speakers, David?
Yeah, Councillor Nicholas, Chair.
Yeah. Over to you, Sue.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would agree. I think deferment is very reasonable, and I'd also like to see some exploration of affordable housing there, given that there's already a large number of open market ones, if that was necessary. But I think the sports hall and negotiating with the school is perfectly reasonable. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Are you any further speakers, David?
No, Chairman.
So unless anybody's got the contrary view, I propose we'll go to the vote. But before we do, I'll just check with Mr. Broomhead for perhaps some wording and make sure it's okay with the proposer and seconder.
It's Councillor Kaczmarek and Councillor Biggs. Obviously, we can investigate with the school the possibility of them acquiring the premises. Councillor Nicholas mentioned affordable housing. Obviously, it's a designated rural area, which 5 is the limit, but obviously that's if it's a policy 8, a site that's not necessarily requiring affordable housing. But I can come back on that in detail when we come back, if you want me to, on that.
Well, I'm proposing to go to the vote because that's the only thing we've got on the table. So I just wanted to check you're happy with it.
Yeah, I didn't know if, sorry, Chairman, I didn't know if they wanted me to investigate that as well. That was all.
Yeah.
At the moment, all I've got is the to contact the school regarding the availability or likelihood of them acquiring the site. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I'd like the deferral to stay. As I said, what what Mark Broomhead has said, our planning officer, negotiations with the school, discussions with the school, and we'll leave it at that deferral.
Okay. Dave, are you happy with that?
Yeah, I would agree with Mark. I think we keep it to what we said originally. Let's explore that one first and see where that takes us.
Yeah, okay, so I propose to put that to the vote, so it'll be referral, which is against the officer's recommendation, and it will be by roll call, so if you're for, will be voting for the referral. So over to you, Angela.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Bastin.
For.
Councillor Biggs.
Dave Biggs, for.
Councillor Coad.
For.
Councillor Eakin-Smith.
For.
Councillor Harding.
For.
Councillor Hurd.
For.
Councillor Kaczmarek.
For.
Councillor Martin.
For.
Councillor Nicholas.
For.
Pascoe.
For.
Councillor Simmons.
For.
Councillor John Thomas.
For.
And Councillor Mike Thomas.
For.
I can confirm that the deferral has been approved unanimously.
Right, thank you. So with that, we go on to item 4.2, that's PA 21/00337, Mr. and Mrs. Dunstan, land north of the cottage, Harris Mill, Logan, and that's on pages 35 to 45, and Diane has taken us through that one. Can you hear me, Diane?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Chairman.
Are you sharing your screen with us? If we just try that.
I will do.
Yeah, right. We can see that and we can hear you loud and clear. So when you're ready, Diane, over to you.
Okay, so you can see the presentation, yeah?
Yes, yeah.
The application as set out is for permission in principle for construction of a dwelling. We have received a letter of support for the application, which was received over the weekend, setting out that they just support the application. No new issues have been raised in that. So the key issues as set out in the report relate to whether the site is suitable for residential development and the effect of the development on the character and appearance of the area. So turning to the location plan, the site is edged in red. The grey boxes show developments referred to in the applicant's supporting statement. We can see a Logan is to the west of the application site and Redruth is to the southeast. Turning to the grey boxes, what we have is an appeal that was allowed for one dwelling in March on that parcel of land. There were 6 dwellings dismissed on appeal on land further west, and then we have 3 dwellings which were approved initially back in 2018 on this parcel of land, which we'll zoom into in a minute. Turning to the site plan, again we can see the site edged in red. We can also see the parish boundaries, so we can see that the application site lies within Redruth, and we can see the Logan parish is to the northwest and Cambria is to the west. As it falls within the Redruth parish, there is no neighbourhood plan. Turning to the aerial photograph, we can just see the site within the context. So we've got the Tahiti Holiday Park to the left, and we've got Harris Mill Farm over on the right. This plan was submitted by the applicant as part of the application, which shows the application in red, the existing cottage to the south, and then they have chosen to highlight the land to the west, which was part of the 2018 application for 3 dwellings to the west of Whiteacres, which is currently under construction, as we'll see in a second. So turning to the photographs, we can see the application site. This is the fence with the cottage beyond. This is looking at the opposite direction. We can see Harris Mill Farm in the distance. This is looking back west towards Whiteacres and the new dwellings being built beyond that. This is taken from the junction at Spartan Gate, Goon Row and Harris Mill, looking south towards the application site, which shows the adjoining agricultural land to the site. This is taken along the highway looking south. You can see the application site is where the fence line is, and this is closer to the application site with the access just on the left of the screen, with Whiteacres to the right, and then the new access serving the 3 dwellings to the right of that. This is facing in the opposite direction, back towards Harris Mill. Again, we can see the access to the left and we can see the application site on the right. This shows the wider context in how far it is from the settlement of Logan. So we've got Tahiti Holiday Park on the left, and then obviously we can see the road down into, which leads eventually up into Logan. This is again in the opposite direction, looking towards the application site junction, which is turn off onto that road there. So turning to the balance of considerations, as we've set out in the report, this is a permission in principle application. We consider that the site is not at or well related to either a Luggan or Redruth, and we consider it to be within the countryside, and predominantly would be relied on the private vehicle due to its limited access in terms of footwear and street lighting. Although the site may be considered previously developed land, in our assessment, this remains an unsustainable location, and on balance, the proposal is not considered to represent sustainable development and is recommended for refusal.
Right, thank you. Angela, just checking, there's nobody from the Parish Council, is it? Wish to speak? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, we do have a public speaker there, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, but nobody from the Parish Council?
No.
No, okay, I didn't know whether I made a mistake or not. So the first speaker I've got is Miss Gilly Slater. I don't know, can you hear me, Miss Slater?
I can, yeah. Hi.
Yeah, right, good morning, welcome to the meeting. It will be 3 minutes and we'll give you a prompt at 30 seconds and your time will start when you start speaking. So when you're ready, if you'd like to carry on.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of this permission in principle application. As identified, the key issue here is whether the site is acceptable to the delivery of a single dwelling when considered against the relevant policies of the development plan. Firstly, the site comprises previously developed land. This is entirely consistent with established case law and Cornwall Council's own guidance, which confirms that residential gardens outside of built-up areas can be considered as previously developed land. Secondly, the Cornwall local plan supports the redevelopment of previously developed land adjoining assessment to provide housing. Thirdly, the site lies just 7 metres east of the development of 3 dwellings approved in October last year under PA 20 06671. In approving this, the location was confirmed as acceptable for residential development. While the 3 dwellings opposite were seen as infill, the acceptance of the location for housing in principle means the proposed site is policy compliant as previously developed land in a sustainable location immediately adjacent to a settlement. The Chief Planning Officer's advice note on infill and rounding off commits the development of previously developed land within or adjacent to settlements or where it is sustainably located. To reiterate, the site is sustainably located as confirmed by Cornwall Council in approving the 3 dwellings 7 metres to the west. The officer's point regarding the allocation CPD is irrelevant and misleading, as this still allows for windfill sites under policy 3 of the local plan, at paragraph 1.11. This includes, at point 4, the development of previously developed land within or adjoining the named settlement. The proposal for a modest 2-bedroom single-storey dwelling set within the established mature boundaries of an existing residential site would not be seen to harm the rural character of the area. The character of the lane has been affected far more by the new access and the 3 dwellings opposite. The issue of car dependency raised in the committee report is a bizarre point given the location was seen as acceptable for 3 dwellings just 6 months ago. It is also important to note that the highways officer has no objection to the application. Furthermore, the committee report refers to an appeal with limited relevance. Cornwall Council have already found this location to be sustainable. However, since the agenda was published, a notable appeal decision has come through for a site to the northwest in the same settlement.
30 seconds left.
Thanks. For application reference PA 20 04241. This appeal was allowed and costs awarded against the council, and the decision is particularly relevant as it relates to the construction of a single dwelling on previously developed garden land adjacent to the settlement of Harris Mill. This concerns the principle of development in this location is entirely acceptable, and to refuse the application in line with officer recommendation would leave the council open to a similar cost application appeal.
That's 3 minutes.
Right, thank you, Ms. Slater. I've got to stop you there, but if you could just wait just to see if there are any questions from the members. Are there any, David?
No, Chairman.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Slater, for attending today's meeting. We now go on to the divisional member. Unfortunately, Councillor Barnes cannot attend, but he has sent a letter over the weekend, which Angela is going to read out just in case everybody's not got it. So over to you, Angela.
Thank you, Chairman. This is his letter. I support this application on personal grounds for the applicant. The applicant has and will for the foreseeable future need a more suitable accommodation for his needs, as his daughter will be living in his present home, and this will provide Mr. Dunstan with the extra support that he will need. I have nothing but admiration for the work put in regarding this application by the planning officer. Diane Boardman has done an excellent job and deserves to be commended, but as this application is north of the applicant's house and not to the south, I do feel that it should be allowed, as there is already a lot of development along the road from Sparnan Gate to Vogue Beloff. Indeed, Mr. Dunstan's cottage is by no means the last cottage closest to Tolvis Mount. There is also development opposite Mr. Dunstan's cottage by the looks of things. So, as far as I can make out, this application is going away from Tolvis Mount and not towards it, which would be encroaching into the countryside. I believe that this may well be the only time I have written to this committee asking them to support a planning application during the life of this council. If you could support it, I promise that I won't write again, Councillor Barnes.
Right, thank you. It will now be any questions of the officers? Are there any, David?
Councillor Nicholas, Chair.
Yeah, Councillor Nicholas.
Thank you. The person speaking just now was referring to it as previously developed land, but it looks to me like a greenfield site. Would that be correct, Di?
As members will know, that gardens outside of settlements fall within the definition of previously developed land.
Though according to some government edicts, that's not the case anymore. But that's not, I mean, it's not had any development other than it's in a garden. I presume.
Mark, you answer that one?
Yeah. Just to clarify, gardens outside of settlements are previously development land by definition. It's irrelevant of whether there's any buildings on the site, but obviously we don't feel that's an overriding reason in this case.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Were any further questions, David?
No, Chairman, no.
Yeah, did any of the officers want to make any comments? No, so right, we'll go into committee, over to members if anybody want to make any statements, and hopefully we'll then come up with a proposal. Anybody wishing to speak, David?
Not yet, Chair. Councillor Nicholas.
Yeah, Councillor Nicholas.
Thank you, yeah. I mean, I think I accept that there's been development on the other side of the road, but when you look at it, there's clearly a concentration of residences there. To me, this looks like it's development in open countryside, or certainly on a green field site, even though it's classed as a garden, which I wouldn't necessarily agree with. So I'd like to propose that we go with the officer's recommendation of refusal.
Yeah, right, thank you. Is there a seconder for that?
Yeah, I would second that. Yeah. I would second that myself, Chair.
Yeah, did you want to say anything on it, David?
Yes, I would like to, if I could, Chair. And I agree totally with what Councillor Nicholas has just said. The Speaker referred to a recent appeal. All I can say is that, which went, I think, which was very contrary to a number of other appeals that have occurred before that, and we're getting a lot of contrary advice. These appeals, these matters are a matter of policy, but policy is a matter of interpretation, and that's the purpose of this committee. And I think we're seeing a gradual creep towards further urbanisation in this area, and I would therefore wish to second Sue's proposal.
Thank you, David. Did or sort of have any of the other members indicated a wish to speak?
I can't see any others, Chair.
No. Okay, with that, we'll move to the vote. So the vote will be for refusal as printed in the agenda on the grounds set in the agenda. So it will be over to Angela for the roll call.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Baston.
For.
Councillor Biggs.
For.
Councillor Code.
For.
Councillor Eakin-Smith.
For.
Councillor Harding.
For.
Councillor Hurd.
For.
Martin.
For.
Councillor Nicholas.
For.
Councillor Pascoe.
For.
Councillor Simmons.
For.
John Thomas. Councillor John Thomas. You're on mute at the moment, Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, for.
Thank you. And Councillor Mike Thomas.
For.
Thank you, Chairman. I can confirm that the application has been refused unanimously.
Right, thank you. So with that, we go on to item 4.3, which is PA19/11008, Mr. N. Summons, land south of Schoolhouse, Sandcreed Road, Sandcreed, and that's on pages 46 to 63, and Chantal has taken us through that one. Can you hear me okay, Chantal?
I can, thank you,
Yep,
Chair.
we
I'm just
can
going
hear
to
you.
do that.
Are you sharing your screen? Are you?
I am.
Get that.
Do that now. Thank you.
Yeah, we can see that okay. So when you're ready, Chantal.
Okay, thank you. So members' attention is drawn to the addendum, which highlights the statement from the electoral division member who is unable to attend the meeting today. The key issues in assessment of this application are housing development, impact on the visual amenity and area of outstanding natural beauty, residential amenity, and highway and pedestrian safety. The site lies on the southern side of the Sandcreed village, adjacent to the C95 road that connects the village to Drift and the A30. The site is located within an area of outstanding natural beauty. Turning to the site plan, a portion of the access track, which is shown in red, is located within the Sandcreed Conservation Area. The access track also serves as a public right-of-way, which can be seen with the blue dot highlighted here. Sandcreed Church, a Grade 2 star listed building, is located to the north of the access track. To the immediate north of the application site, which is located here, is a neighbouring property known as Schoolhouse, which is also a non-designated heritage asset. Planet Earth Environmental Education Community lies to the south, with further dwellings also to the southwest, and then further agricultural land lies to the west. And then this is the road running through the village on the east. To put the site into context, here's an aerial view. Taking into account the road frontage to the east, built development to the north and south, the site is considered to meet the definition of infill development. Turning to the block plan, a detached dwelling is proposed to the east of the site, adjacent to the C95 road. A new access road is proposed to the north, which to be bounded by a Cornish hedge. The access track has been subject to negotiations to site it away from the trees which border the site. A two-storey dwelling is proposed, which will have a natural slate roof and a natural stone frontage to the east, with cathedral boarding to the first floor and painted render below to the other elevations. The floor plan proposes a 3-bedroom dwelling with an integral garage. The A and B unit have objected to the application as they consider a substantial dwelling in this location would harmfully erode the agricultural setting of the hamlet. Whilst the A and B comments are noted and understood, the dwelling is considered to reflect the character and form of surrounding residential development, comprising detached dwellings set in large gardens. Due to the separation distance, there'd be no detrimental harm to the residential amenity of neighbouring occupiers. Now looking at the proposed alterations to the existing access. Access is proposed from the C95 road via a private road that serves as a public right-of-way. To improve visibility, it's proposed to reduce the existing stone hedge to 900 metres and remove the trees around the existing access to the east. Notwithstanding the improvements to visibility, the Highways Officer has objected to the application due to lack of visibility and highway safety issues. Just turning to the photographs. This shows the existing site. So an access track is proposed adjacent to the boundary and these trees. And the dwelling will be located in this area here. This is a further view of the site and the neighbouring development. And then this is the proposed access. This is where the trees are to be removed to improve visibility. And also this hedge here will be reduced to improve visibility. In conclusion, the proposal is considered to be infill development and will result in a small boost to housing. The dwelling, whilst large, reflects the character and form of surrounding residential development. Due to existing and proposed landscaping, the harm to the area of outstanding natural beauty would be limited. In terms of highway safety, however, the site is significantly constrained with emerging visibility in both directions, and this weighs against the proposal. The application is therefore recommended for refusal. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Chantal. Right, the first speaker we've got on this one is Councillor Ian Solsby from Sandcree Parish Council. Can you hear me, Councillor Solsby?
Yes, I can, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, good morning and welcome to the meeting.
Morning.
The format will be that you'll have 3 minutes to speak. We'll give you a prompt at 30 seconds and your time will start when you start speaking. So when you're ready, Councillor Solsby.
Okay, right. Well, I don't have a lot to say, but the main issues are these. The Parish Council on the whole is rather confused by the inconsistencies regarding the access to the potential site. It's very well known, obviously, to local councillors, particularly the local farmers who are driving past it all the time, and myself, and none of us can ever, certainly not in the 30-odd years I've been here, and ever remember any kind of traffic incident pertaining to that access. I would just sort of point out, I think Councillor Hawkins has probably done the same, that the entrance is regularly used by agricultural vehicles, not all day long, but from time to time. It's used by vehicles accessing the old school. The school was closed in 1968, so it's been a private residence for a very long time. Without any problems. It's used by people attending the Mary Williams Hall, which is in effect the church hall, and that would include members of the Parish Council, because we hold 6 of our meetings in there during the colder months. The village hall's too cold for us in the winter, so we go in there again and park in the associated car park opposite. It's also rather ironic that in a month's time, or a month tomorrow, it will be used by Cornwall Council staff, because the Mary Williams Hall is the only polling station in the parish. So, a few days before the election, a van will pull up there and deliver the portable polling booths. The 2 members of staff will turn up on the voting day to man the station. A succession of electors will be coming in and out of that entrance, and then of course the Cornwall Council van will come back in a day or 2 after the election and take the polling booths away. So it seems, I don't know,
30 seconds left.
That it should be turned down on those grounds. And that basically is it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Solsby. If you can just hang on, just in case any of the members got a question for you. Are there any questions for Councillor Solsby, David?
No questions, Chairman.
Right, thank you very much, Councillor Solsby, for attending this morning's meeting. With the next speaker, we go on to Chloe Pitt. Chloe, can you hear me?
Yes, good morning, Chair, I'm here.
I think you'll probably know the format, but I will repeat it. It's 3 minutes. We'll give you a prompt at 30 seconds, and your time will start when you start speaking. Over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, members and officers of Planning Committee. My name is Chloe Pitt, and I'm a Chartered Town Planner from Lawrence Associates, who are acting as planning agent for the application before you. As set out by your planning officer, the sole reason for the application being called to committee concerns the matter of highways, and I will therefore stick to the key points in this regard. The application follows a pre-application inquiry in June 2019 for 2 dwellings, where the principle of development was considered acceptable, subject to an appropriate design. On the point of highways, it was advised that any application would need to provide an improved access that would remove the need for an existing car to enter the carriageway to observe approaching vehicles. Following the pre-application advice, a local highways consultant was appointed and provided advice on improving the access to serve 2 dwellings, together with a transportation advisory note to support the application. The proposed access plan shows that the existing stone hedge to the northwest of the existing access is to be lowered to 900 millimetres above road level, and in doing so would allow for a visibility display of more than 43 metres. In terms of the northeast of the existing access, the existing stone hedge is proposed to be taken down and surrounding ground level to 900 millimetres above road level, and in turn achieving a visibility display of 13 metres. The highways officer objected to the application when it was submitted in December 2019, and despite reducing the number of dwellings down to 1, the objection is maintained, which mainly focuses on the fact that the visibility display to the northeast cannot meet the desired 43-metre visibility display as set out within the Manual for Streets guidance. Also, an unfortunate near miss which seems to have influenced the strong opposition received. Members should note that the proposed access to serve the new dwelling is an existing access used to access the Mary Williams Hall, which holds parish council meetings, acts as a polling station, hosts regular coffee events after church every Sunday, plus other meetings if the hall is booked. In addition, the old Sunday school, the church car park, the field at the rear of Glebe Farmhouse for emptying the owner's septic tank, and the agricultural fields used by a variety of vehicles. And when there have been large funerals at the church, the field is then used as overflow parking. On balance, while displays do not meet the guidance on the size recommended by the Manual of Streets guidance, given the existing use, the road speed in this location, the fact that there have never been any accidents, there would without doubt be a betterment here in terms of highway safety improvements to all users. I therefore urge members to take a pragmatic view and support this application. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you, Chloe. If you could just hang on just in case there are some questions from members. Are there any, David?
Yeah, Councillor Bastin, Chair.
Yeah.
Right.
Over to you, John.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Chloe. Removing the hedge, would that also involve removing trees?
Yes, it would, yeah.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions, David?
No further questions, Chair.
Right, so we go on to the divisional member. There was a letter from Councillor Helen Hawkins, who's unable to attend the meeting. Has everybody read it, or does anybody wish to have it read out? Take it everybody's read it? Right, we go in now into the questions of officers. Are there any questions for the officers?
Councillor Biggs, Chairman.
Yeah. Over to you, Dave.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. It's one for the case officer, if I may. It's been described as acceptable infill, but to the south that it's a little bit closer to some buildings, but to the centre itself, it looks like there's at least a 50-metre gap and I'm a bit surprised that it's been described as infill in this circumstances. I wonder to give me a little bit more clarification around that, because I'm not entirely convinced. It looks to me like infill.
Yeah, Mark, did you want to take that one, or do you want to delegate it to Chantal?
Sorry, Chairman. If Chantal can put the Ordnance Survey map up, please.
Let's get the map.
You got the larger version, Chantal, please.
That one?
Yeah, because there's buildings to the north and south, and we are getting Cornish hedge boundaries. We felt on balance that there was an infill between that development.
Sorry, Chairman, may I come back?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Broomhead, but you would agree that there's something like, by the time you got the building itself there still will be a 50-metre gap between the proposed building and the nearest one to the north. Is that correct? And you think 50 metres is okay?
Well, you mean the building to the north?
Yeah, from
yeah. That has got a. Sorry, Jim. That has got a curtilage with that building. So when you take the site as a whole, then it isn't 50 metres from the actual developed area.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. Chantal, you've got your hand up. Did you want to comment, or?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay. Right, have we got any further questions, David?
Councillor Nicholas?
Yeah, over to you, Sue.
Thank you. Oh, there we are. Yeah, that does seem a bit odd to me, because that seems to be an awful long track into the corner of an agricultural field. It doesn't seem to me to be close proximity to any other building. So I think that's why have we got this long track across an open field to get to a corner of a field that basically is an open field.
Mark, can you answer that one?
I don't know if Councillor Nichols wants me to answer. I think she's making an observation. Is that correct?
Oh, no, I just want to know why it's acceptable to have that great big long track across that field to get to this site. Why is it not closer to any of the other buildings that are there?
Well, we didn't want access off the road there because of the existing hedgerows and trees, and obviously the visibility wouldn't be able to be achieved. Obviously, again, we have got Cornish hedges right down through that access track, as well as the boundary on the western side.
So it just seems to be standing out on its own to me. Okay, thanks.
David, have you got any further questions?
Yes, Councillor Bastin.
Yeah, over to you, John.
Right. Thank you. Questions for Chantal, please. Chantal, what grade is this land? Can you tell me that?
Unfortunately, I don't have that information.
Because again, I think it's important we know the grade in future for all projects, really, because we're losing, high grade land quite quickly, as far as I can see. Second question, has any offer been made to mitigate against removing the trees and hedges?
Chantal, sorry.
That's okay. No, obviously hang on, let me just scroll to a new Cornish hedge is proposed along here, and additional tree planting adjacent to the dwelling. But at the access point, no, the trees need to be removed due to increased visibility.
Yeah.
So you couldn't plant any additional trees at that point.
No, I appreciate that. But what I'm really saying is, on site, as you've already shown, presumably you could argue that was to mitigate the loss of those trees?
Okay.
Mark, can you come back on that?
Sorry, Councillor Sebastian. When you mean on site, what the hedges to mitigate?
What I'm really interested in, Mark, if you're going to remove Cornish hedges and trees on site, from what Chantal has just shown us, they are going to replace hedges and trees. Would that be a?
They're going to put a new Cornish hedge right down through there and some planting along here.
Right.
Is that right?
That's really what I'm asking. Okay. So one could balance the other. That was the question I'm asking. Anyway, thank you, Mark.
Just on the point of I appreciate your concerns regarding loss of grade agricultural land or high grade agricultural land. And as you're aware, I doubt very much an inspector would give much weight to that due to the size of the site. But obviously, you will have a different view.
Well, it's fair comment that we are losing little bits here and there and everywhere, aren't we? Anyway, thank you, Mark.
Thank you. David, have you got any further questions?
Yeah, Councillor Mike Thomas.
Yeah, Mike, over to
you. Thank you, Roger. So are we in a situation where it is the highways issue is the main thing that's causing us concern, Mr. Broomhead?
Yeah. Obviously, that's the main reason for refusal. And obviously, the highways officer is here. If you have any questions for the highway officer, I can direct them to him.
It seems to me, in my 4 years in this job, that very rarely do we have a situation where a highways concern actually goes against an application, because normally that is something you're telling us cannot be relied upon as a reason for not for being against an application. So I find it rather strange in this situation that this is so heavily of concern, especially when the parish councillor has expressed all the detail that he's just given us. So have you got any views as to whether there are any ways that could mitigate this that haven't already been considered?
Yeah. Regarding your first comment, I don't think we've ever said that we can't refuse it on highway grounds in every case, because we have to look at every case, and if it is quite bad or severe, then obviously the highways officer would make their comments. Obviously, the applicants, due to the constraints of the site, have gone as far as they can go in overcoming the visibility requirements, but they can't meet the requirements that would satisfy the highways officer.
Yes, I was very being broad sort of experience of that highways didn't seem to be an area which we could rely on in many applications, whereas councillors we felt very strongly against a particular application. But here it is a case that, as the officer is putting forward that as the main reason, despite all the other observations of other councillors about their concerns, it comes down to that. That's all it comes down to. Thank you.
Thank you. David, you got any further speakers?
Yes, Councillor Pascoe, Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lionel, over to you.
Okay, yeah, just a quick question on the access. Does the applicant own the access as well? And if not, who does? And because obviously, like Mike Thomas now said, it's more or less about the highways objection to it. And if the applicant owns the access, surely that this can be overcome.
The applicant doesn't own enough land or can achieve the visibility displays required by the highways officer.
Right.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
Are there any further questions, David?
No, Chairman.
Is it Robin from Highways today? Would you like to comment, Robin?
Councillor Hardy, I can, if you want, maybe to just give a sort of background.
Well, I think just to get, I think it'd only be fair to give you a chance to it's your report.
Sure. So initially, when the application came in and I raised concerns with the existing access, we looked at potentially providing an alternative access, which Mark referred to earlier, further to the south. That wasn't feasible, I think, principally for the hedgerow loss, so we were back to the existing access. At the moment, emerging to the right, the access is blind. With the improvements, the increase in visibility would be taken to 13 metres. 13 metres is an equivalent approach speed of 11 miles an hour. So sort of driving past the access, you're doing about 25 to 30 miles an hour. Just one other point on the kind of betterment of the access. The sort of parish council or users of the hall could provide that betterment without the addition of the dwelling. It's not necessarily a reason to approve a dwelling for a highway betterment when that could be undertaken without the need for the additional dwelling. So that's all I sort of really have to add at this point.
Right, thank you. Were there any further questions, David?
I've got Councillor Biggs, Chairman.
Yeah. Over to you, Dave.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just for confirmation, if you would please, if you're approaching this junction from the south, it looks to me like there is a drain and then a curb marked by a bollard, which forces vehicles further out to the right. Is that right? Is that correct?
To Chantal or Mark, can you answer that?
It might be best if does Robin know the answer to that?
I don't know the specific answer to that, but I mean, in all senses, when we consider an application and an access, it's not just purely vehicles, it's also cyclists and motorcyclists, who, if the vehicle's tracking in the other direction or coming from behind, tend to be much closer to the hedgerow than would otherwise be the case.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I'll save it for comment. Thank you, John.
Yeah. Any further questions, David?
Councillor Coe, Chair.
Yeah, Councillor Coe.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very familiar with that area, and I can't quite understand why we cannot allow an access onto the road right next to the development. You say it's because of loss of Cornish hedge, but how much Cornish hedge would be lost to create an entrance exit with a sufficient view for safety? Surely that must be possible. I know we like to protect Cornish hedges wherever possible, but I know that in the past we have given permission to developments where some element of Cornish hedging is lost to provide a safe exit and entrance. Thank you.
Mark, can you answer that, please?
Yeah, I just remind members we have to concentrate on the application that's in front of us. Obviously, that's not a proposal. We've made our views on that proposal, but that isn't what we're looking at to be determined today.
Thank you. Were there any further questions, David?
No, Chairman.
No. Right. With that, we'll go into committee and over to members. Anybody want to make any comment, and then eventually a proposal? Have you anybody that wishes to speak, David?
Not at the moment, Chairman. Councillor Code.
Over to you, Graham.
Councillor Code, you're on mute at the moment.
Thank you very much. I would suggest that we consider deferring this application so that further discussions can take place between the would-be developer and the planners with different exit and entrance on the road, much closer to the building.
Yeah. Is there a seconder for that proposal?
Second that, Chairman.
Yeah, it's Councillor John Thomas, is it?
It is, Chairman.
Yeah, sorry, I thought it was. Yeah, okay then. Are there any contrary views to that before I put it to the vote? No.
Can't see any.
No. Okay. Could somebody just read out exactly what the proposal is, and I'll make sure the proposer and seconder are happy with it. Mark, right? Angela, got.
Yeah, as I understand from Councillor Code, he wants officers to investigate the possibility of a access point to the adjoining highway next to the dwelling. Is that correct?
Yeah,
that's correct.
Yeah. So, proposer and seconder, you're happy with that? Before I put it to vote. You're okay, Graham, and you're okay, John?
Yes,
I am.
Yeah, okay. So we'll put that to the vote. It'll be contrary to the officer's recommendation, but it will be for a deferral, and it'll be as the recommendation that has been read out. So all those in favour of that deferral, please, we'll go over to Angela and for a roll call now.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Bastin.
Against.
Councillor Biggs.
Yeah, hello, did you call me, Angela? Dave Biggs?
Yeah.
Yeah, against.
Councillor Code.
For.
Councillor Eakin-Smith.
Against.
Councillor Harding.
Against.
Councillor Hurd.
Against.
Councillor Marrick. Councillor Kaczmarek.
I think he may not be back.
Yeah, I think he left and he might not be back yet, so I'll move on from that one. Councillor Martin.
Against.
Councillor Nicholas.
Against.
Councillor Pascoe.
Against.
Councillor Simmons.
Against.
Councillor Thomas.
For.
Councillor Mike Thomas.
For.
Count that up quickly, sir. I can confirm that proposal for deferral has failed by 3 votes in favour, 9 against and no abstentions. So we now have nothing on the table.
Yeah, so we'll need a further proposal.
Yeah.
I'll open up for debate, or somebody like to make a further proposal.
Councillor Nicholas, Chairman.
Chairman, I'm quite happy to go with the officer's proposal, that recommendations that we refuse this, and I'm not happy about a rather long lead to a house in the middle of a field. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that one?
Yes, Chairman. What I would like to say, Chairman, I did go to explain why I went to for referral. Picking up on Councillor Nicholas's view, that I don't like it where it is, and I'm sure negotiations might have erased, sorted that out. But I'm happy to go with refusal if that can happen, Chairman. Thank you.
Yeah. Are there any further speakers?
Councillor Bastin, Chairman.
Yeah. Over to you, John.
Sorry, I was just seconding Sue. Obviously, Councillor Thomas got it before me.
Yeah,
right.
Okay, well, thank you. So, are there any further speakers, David?
No, Chairman.
No. So we'll put that to the vote then. So it will be as recommended for refusal, as laid out in the agenda. It's been moved and seconded. So we'll go over to Angela now for the roll call.
Thank you. Councillor Bastin.
For.
Councillor Biggs.
For.
Councillor Code.
Abstain.
Councillor Eakin-Smith.
For.
Councillor Harding.
Abstain.
Councillor Hurd.
For.
Councillor Kaczmarek's not here, sorry. Councillor Martin.
For.
Councillor Nicholas.
For.
Councillor Pascoe.
For.
Councillor Simmons.
For.
Councillor John Thomas.
For.
Councillor Mike Thomas.
Abstain.
Okay, I'll just count that up quickly. That's been carried by 9 votes in favour, none against and 3 abstentions.
Thank you. Right, over to members. We've got 1 item left. Is there a wish for a comfort break, or would you like to carry on with the next item?
Press on, Chairman.
Press on, Chairman.
Press on.
Carry on, please, Roger.
So, so we go on to item 4.4. That's PA 21/00820. Mr. R. Williams and Miss A. Brooks Davis and W. Ladd Builders, land east of Kelskibber, Merritt's Hill, Illugan, and that's on pages 64 to 73. And I think, James, you're taking us through that one. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Yeah. Are you sharing your screen with us, James?
I am. I'll just try and share that now for you. Hopefully that's okay for him to see.
Yeah, we can see that. We can hear you. So when you're ready, James, over to you.
Ideal. Thank you very much, Chair. So this is an application for permission in principle for a minimum of 4, a maximum of 5 single-storey dwellings on a site in a Luggan bit in Cambria Parish. Okay. The key issues in this application: housing development and the principle of residential development. Given this is a permission in principle, the scope of the submission is limited to the location, land use and amount of development. Given those points as well, we're also looking at whether access is achievable and suitable for the amount of development proposed. Okay, showing the proposal here, we can see where the site is outlined in red there, with Luggan to the north and west, and then West Holgis to the south. Moving into a scaled in version, we can see again the site outlined in red. I've just highlighted here 3 fields to the north where a similar application for 8 dwellings was allowed at appeal with costs. So that's just something to keep in mind when we're looking at this current submission. And moving on now to an aerial view of the same site. I think as per the report, this submission is considered acceptable on the basis of rounding off, and I think we can see on this aerial plan the reasoning behind that recommendation, with development to the west and south, housing development quite clear there, and to the east we have a kind of recycling waste storage workshop kind of site, which clearly previously developed land also encloses the site to the east with a hedgerow boundary to the north. You can see there the reasoning behind the recommendation for a grant of approval as acceptable rounding off development. As I showed on the previous slide, the similar application nearby, you can see 3 fields to the north, and this field is where 8 dwellings were also recently approved on appeal. Here's the location plan. Submit with the application, so again we can just see where the site is. We can see development on adjacent sites and the storage facility to the east. I've included here the indicative site plan. Now, given this is a permission in principle, this plan is only indicative at this stage. However, I think it's a useful plan to include just to show how development could feasibly be accommodated up to 5 dwellings on this site. Moving on to some photographs now. So these are some various photographs from the corners of the site boundaries. If you look at the image on the top right here, this is from the gated entrance to the site, which we'll see that entrance in a future photograph, but this is from the entrance to the site. So we can see these blue containers marking the storage kind of facility on the east side, and the hedgerow boundary on the southern side of the site here. You can just about see some bungalows beyond. This photograph here is from the east corner of the site, looking back towards the site entrance. You can just about see faintly the gate over here, with some recent bungalows approved about 3 years ago on this site boundary adjacent to the site. Then this one on the bottom left, we can see this is the hedgerow boundary, which would enclose the site to the north. And we can again see adjacent residential development. And the final photograph here, this is now looking to the south from the same corner of the site. You can again see development along West Holgis just about in the distance here, and the bungalows bordering adjacent to the site. Some further photographs. So the photograph in the top left here, that's a slightly clearer, closer view of bungalows bordering the site to the south. And then this one is looking back across the site to the north. So we can see this bungalow here, which was recently approved 3 years ago, adjacent to the site to the west. And we can see the storage containers on the east here, which enclose the site on either side, with a hedgerow boundary, which is considered to create a definable established feature to the north. The site access is just adjacent. We can see about where this tree is where the site access is proposed to be. Moving on to these photographs at the bottom, here's the gated entrance to the site itself. We can see it's fairly narrow at this stage, but then if we look in the other direction, this is coming from Merritt's Hill, where the public highway, which would initially be used to gain access. We can see there's a passing place here. That passing place has been confirmed by a condition during the approval of the scheme which approved this property and others adjacent to it, which are now adjacent to this same site. Moving on to some final pictures in relation to the access. So this one on the top left is from Merritt's Hill, looking, and again we can see initially room for one vehicle, but then we have the passing place just on the right hand side. We can see where it opens out in this top left photo. Again, that passing place is confirmed via a condition on a previous permission. And the two images on the bottom here are to demonstrate the visibility upon emergence onto Merritt's Hill. So we see there, these are taken from inside my vehicle when I visited the site, to show that we've got some fairly extensive visibility in both directions there upon emergence from this site access. Finally, moving on to the balance of considerations. So to clarify, this scheme is considered acceptable as a rounding off scheme, being bordered by developed land on three sides and enclosed on that final side by an established hedgerow. Final details will be considered at technical details consent, and at that point we'd have the ability to confirm an acceptable scheme in terms of the visual amenities, ensuring appropriate design, layout, access, drainage conditions, and all those technical matters we would consider at that future stage. At this stage, it's considered that the site is, as I say, appropriate in terms of rounding off, and is large enough and able to accommodate the scale of development proposed. As I mentioned earlier, being a permission in principle, we're limited to location, land use, and amount of development as a scope of considerations. And taking those 3 points into account, the amount of development proposed with the residential land use is considered acceptable in this location, and access is considered to be achievable for that amount of development. With that in mind, it is recommended that permission in principle be granted.
Right, thank you, James. Angela, David is obviously the divisional member on this one. Can you just keep an eye on the members wishing to speak, please?
Yes, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. We have got speakers, and the first one is Mr. Peter Lee. I don't know can you hear me, Mr. Lee?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome to the meeting, Mr. Lee. It will be 3 minutes will be your time. We'll give you a prompt at 30 seconds, and your time will start when you start speaking. So over to you.
Thank you very much. My name's Peter Lee. I live at 7 Higher West Tolgus. I'm the chairman of the West Tolgus Residents Association and also the vice chairman on the committee for the neighbourhood plan. Ladd the Builders are a highly respected company which I assume have both business and society connection. This application, coupled with previous application on the adjoining piece of land which they already have developed, will create a minimum of 10 dwellings. With the application several years apart, they will have avoided the affordable housing legislation. If you approve this application, you will be complicit in this practice. These are not affordable dwellings. The adjoining properties are valued in excess of £450,000. A search by Warwick Addison on the 26th of last month for property sale within 3 miles of the proposed development revealed 528 for sale, prices ranging from 54,000 to 925,000. 118 of these are affordable according to Cornwall Council guidelines. The site is on a floodplain previously mentioned in the application that enabled the dwellings nearby to be constructed. At its eastern edge, it's about 6 foot lower than the industrial estate, and 6 dwellings in West Tolgus. The industrial estate is a large storage container facility with the container standing on a concrete standing, affecting surface water drainage and an eyesore. I have spoken to the owner recently, and he is thinking of actually putting one container upon the other, which would create a terrible eyesore. The residents of Cambria have already complained of flooding, plus low water pressure. A green corridor runs north-south, sandwiched between West Tolgus and Merritt's Hill. It is a haven for flora, fauna and wildlife, and of course Cornish hedges. We have video evidence of foxes, badgers and roe deer in this rural area. The access together with the existing property is severely restricted. 2 vehicles cannot pass each other either when entering or exiting from Merritt's Hill and until they reach Lambourne House. There is only one single vehicle access to Willskibber, and the proposed development.
3 minutes.
I'm afraid that's your time, Mr. Lee. If you could just wait, just in case any of the members have got any questions for you.
Yes, by all means.
Are there any questions, Angela?
I can't see any, Chairman.
No, right. Well, thank you very much for attending this morning's meeting and speaking, Mr. Lee. Thank you. And the next speaker we go on to Councillor Danielle Wills from Cambria Parish Council. Can you hear me, Councillor?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, good morning. Welcome to the meeting. It'll be the usual format. You'll have 3 minutes. We'll give you a prompt 30 seconds and your time will start when you start speaking. So when you're ready, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Chair. First of all, I would like to inform the meeting that although I live in the vicinity of this application, I'm here as a representative of Cambria Parish Council. I would like to suggest that whoever it was that produced the highways report read this application, actually visit this site as I did, and not work from the plans and photographs. They do not give a true measure of this application. I visited the site to try and understand the comments that were being made by the residents, and I was immediately met in my vehicle by a DPD delivery van and found that it was impossible for us to pass each other. I had to then make an illegal move and reverse back onto Merritt's Hill, and this is not acceptable and needs revisiting as a matter of urgency. As a council, we are in the advanced stages of our neighbourhood plan. The draft development boundary is actually in consultation as of today. If this is adopted, this application would be rejected. Our first environmental policy is to protect our Cornish hedges. In a recent survey, 94% of the residents said they want the hedgerows protected. 90% said they want more natural habitats and not less. We do not support, on behalf of our residents, the demolition of any of the Cornish hedges. However, our plan is not yet complete, and whilst I realise this is not of importance to you at this moment, this piece of land is one of our protected areas. This land has been identified, as mentioned before, as a floodplain, and we're already hearing that 3 of the bungalows on the first phase of this development have back gardens that flood every time it rains. These 5 new buildings will not only join them in being flooded, but they will be added to an already slow drainage system. Soakaways would not solve this issue. The storage facility that overlooks this development has no drainage in place and is nearly 3 metres above this land. I've spoken to many of the residents that reside on the first phase, and they're extremely angry as they were all promised that this land would be returned to a meadow and that there would be no more building. We have beautiful bits of green land around here, and people say we are very lucky. In one way, we are lucky, but unfortunately, most of our time is committed to trying to stop people taking this land and building on it. The average wage of the Cornish is £15,000, and these houses are priced above £400,000, so they are obviously not intended to help the current generation get on the housing ladder. To finish, we have an abundance of wild animals in this area, and we're lucky enough in the last few months to capture these on film. There's no housing need in this area for humans, but there's an absolute need to keep the homes of our creatures. I plead with you to oppose this application.
Thank you very much, Councillor. If you could just wait, just in case we've got some questions for you. Are there any, Angela?
Yes, Councillor Nicholas.
Yeah, over to you, Sue.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you for your information, Councillor. Just two things, really. Firstly, the dwellings that were built on the adjacent site, are they bungalows or are they semi-detached residences? They're bungalows. And the other question was, looking at some of the photographs we've already seen, this site is already being cleared?
That's right, yes. And although they promised the people that bought the first phase that there would be no more building and that field would be replaced back into a meadow, and this hasn't happened, and they're not happy at all. It is a floodplain, and these houses will get flooded constantly.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any further questions, Angela?
No, Chairman.
No, right, thank you. The next speaker is Miss Gilly Slater again. Can you hear me, Miss Slater?
I can, thanks.
Yeah, it'll be the same format as before. It'll be 3 minutes. You get your prompt at 30 seconds, and your time will start when you start speaking. So over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll keep this one short, as I agree with the points raised in your case officer's recommendation for approval. I would just like to reiterate the fact that this development is entirely compliant with the development plan as a rounding off proposal. It's bordered by existing development on 3 sides. It's sustainably located, and the delivery of up to 5 dwellings would respect the existing residential character of the area. As noted, a number of comments have been received relating to matters of access and highway safety. And given that the submission is through the permission in principle route, the final details of access would be considered at a future point through the technical details consent stage. However, it's important to note that the proposed access has been supported by the highways officer. The principle of development is confirmed as acceptable by your case officer. The location is acceptable for the development of up to 5 dwellings, being within an established settlement. There is clear policy support for the application, and the principle of development is established as acceptable under Policy 3 of the Cornwall Local Plan. In light of this, and in the absence of harm arising from the proposed development, it is respectfully requested that the application is approved in line with your officer's recommendation. Thanks for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah. Right, thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Slater, Angela?
No, I can't see any, Chairman.
Right, thank you very much, Ms. Slater, for attending today's meeting and speaking. And so with that, we go on to the divisional member, which is Councillor Atkins-Smith. It'll be 5 minutes, and then we'll probably be asking you to sum up, David.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, my thanks to the speakers for their input, and I shall try to avoid repeating points already made by the others and to emphasise key areas. Firstly, a little history. As is noted in paragraph 25 of the report, this parcel of land is adjacent to the site to the west, where an application was approved for 5 houses in 2017 and subsequently a further house in 2018. I say houses, I should call them bungalows. There was considerable opposition at the time from existing residents in the area, but on that occasion I did not refer it to this committee, following discussions with the developer and planning officers. The concerns then were over potential overdevelopment and issues of access via the narrow lane. These were largely mitigated by the provision of a wider spot as a passing place, as you've seen in the photograph. At the time, I considered the development of 5 properties to be reasonable, and my concerns that they would be the precursor of further development were allayed. This application for permission in principle, paragraph 19 in the report, is seeking development approval, but leaving detailed plans until later. By advanced planning permission, by any other words. The committee has always advised, quite rightly, that it should focus on the application before it, and that the decision it makes should be based on policy. However, in my opinion, policy itself is often a matter of interpretation, and broader issues should and must inform the interpretation. Once we bring the climate emergency and the preservation of natural environment into the equation, the decision becomes much more difficult. The balance of benefit and harm often comes down to a matter of opinion, as two quite recent and conflicting appeal decisions in the very local vicinity have demonstrated. This is yet another such case. We are restricted to two key issues, as explained in paragraphs 19 and 23 of the report. Taken separately, issue 1. The question is, does the loss of another green field and associated wildlife habitat and the further incursions of the green corridor between the settlements of Merritts Hill and Higher West Tolgus, leading to increasing urbanisation, cause greater harm than the benefit of 4 or 5 extra high-value properties? None are in the affordable category, as already been explained, and will do nothing to relieve the acute shortage of houses for local young families. The Cambria Parish Neighbourhood Plan is at the consultation stage, but you have heard that the suggested plan places this plot of land outside the settlement boundary. No great present weight, unfortunately, but a clear expression of the will of the local community if it is supported in the consultation. I believe that this green space is an important part of the open countryside, and the hedgerow quoted as a boundary for rounding off is a natural part of the rural environment. The second issue, access and suitability of the lane, paragraph 23 of the report. This has already been well covered by our speakers, and my only comment is that, with due respect, the highways officer does not live there or use the lane on a daily basis. The residents do. Yes, there is good forward visibility, unless there is a large service vehicle or delivery van in the way, of which there are now many servicing online commerce. The passing space is wide enough to allow 2 very small vehicles to pass, but having to reverse out onto Merritts Hill is a much more serious risk. It's a busy 3 road with many parked cars and which narrow the access. I noted that the photograph we've been shown seemed to be taken at a time when there were very few parked cars, but it's not like that most of the time, I can assure you. Another 4 or 5 houses doesn't sound like much, but when added cumulatively to the recent explosion of developments in the area, it is. In summary, I believe this is an example of a cumulative increase in the development by the gradual addition of a small number of extra properties over time. In this case, small enough to stay under the affordable homes threshold, as pointed out in paragraph 25 of the report. I believe it represents the loss of a valuable environmental asset, and in particular reduces the vital green corridor between existing linear settlements in Merritts Hill and Higher West Tolgus. The addition of 4 or 5 new properties will provide a small addition to the housing stock, but not sufficient additional benefit to outweigh the harm that will follow the loss of valuable environmental space, the reduction in wildlife habitat, and increasing urbanisation of a rural area. For these reasons, I would ask the committee to refuse this permission in principle, or if not, to at the very least delay any approval until more detail is provided on how environmental damage can be avoided and biodiversity net gain achieved at the appropriate level. And whilst doing that, how the provision of affordable housing can be catered for. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for doing it just over 5 minutes, David. Right, are there any questions for the divisional member, Angela?
Councillor Baston.
Yeah, over to you, John.
Right. Thank you, Chair. Could I just ask David, when does he think those photographs were taken by the, perhaps I ought to ask Mr. Mosley really, but is that classic of that site, so much wet?
I'm not sure when he took them, but I think you've heard already, John, the comments about the floodplain and so on. And yes, it is a wet area.
Yeah. James, can you answer that one? You did say you were in the car when you took it, so I presume it might have been raining. But could you answer the question, please?
Yeah, it was raining at the time I went to take those photographs about 3 weeks ago. But I can't remember the conditions in the week preceding that, to be honest, I'm afraid.
Could I also ask, just look, and again, possibly not an easy answer, when was the Google Maps photograph? Because that's also showing it to be very wet and muddy.
Over to the officers, Jim.
Possible to answer that one, is it?
I'm looking at the imagery date on Google. It says that it was 21st of July 2020, the one that I've currently got on sharing at the minute.
Right, thank you, because I think that also shows it looking very wet and very muddy. But thank you very much anyway.
Right, thank you. Were there any further questions for David, Angela?
No.
No. Right, with that, we'll go into committee and open it up for debate, and at some time we'd like a proposal. So,
Chairman, sorry, we just had questions of the electoral division member. Is it questions?
Yes, sorry. Yeah, my fault. I haven't been doing the job long enough, right? So, right, sorry about that one. Are there any questions of the officers? Sorry.
Councillor Nicholas.
Yeah, over to you, Sue.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just wondering, do you know when they started clearing this site and what's happened about wildlife habitat in there whilst that's been going on?
Yeah, Mark, do you want to
go
back
I haven't been to the site, but looking at the photos, just clearing the site isn't necessarily development. So obviously, if it's not development, then there's nothing we can do under the planning legislation.
Yeah, I think the question's about the wildlife, isn't it? Any arrangement?
So, yeah, but if the works carried out aren't development, which, as I understand, may well be the case, then there's different legislation that covers wildlife in that event, because if it's not development, it doesn't fall under the planning legislation. Does that answer your question?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Are there any further questions, Angela?
Councillor Code.
Yeah. Graham? Over to you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Listening to some of the questions already from various councillors, it seems that they're concerned about issues which are not related to the permission in principle application that we're listening to today. We're not to be taken into consideration whether or not it's a floodplain or whether or not the transport and traffic is available. We're just looking at the very simple matters that constitute permission in principle. We might like to ask other things, but we would be able to do that at a later stage when technical issues come forward as a separate part of the planning application. I don't think we have a great deal of the leeway in this today. Could the planning officers or someone there confirm what I'm saying?
Mark, could you answer that one, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just bear with me a sec. Yeah, the proposal is for permission in principle, which is set out in the Planning Practice Guidance and the Town and Country Planning Permissions in Principle Order 217. So the scope for members to consider for permissions in principle at this first stage is limited to the location, whether you feel the site is a suitable location, land use issues, and the amount of development. So obviously land use issues can be a multitude of different aspects, and the range is from between 4 and 5 in terms of numbers. Does that make that clear, Chairman?
Councillor Code, are you happy with that?
Yes, I am, and I think I've got a grasp of it. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Right, Angela, are there any further questions?
Yes, Councillor Bastin.
Yeah, over to you, John.
Right, thank you, Chair. Mark, if I can just clarify that, would not the drainage facet of the land be part of that principle?
Well, we feel that under the technical details that can be dealt with, as set out in paragraph 25, 24, matters such as flooding impacts. Correct me if I'm wrong, James. It's not in a floodplain. Is that right?
Yeah, I can confirm that on our mapping, the site's not showing up within a critical drainage area, not in an area susceptible to surface water flooding, and not in flood zones 2 or 3.
Therefore, we would condition that would be part of the technical detail. So I wouldn't resist it on that issue.
Right, thank you, Mark.
Right. Angela, are there any further questions?
Councillor Pascoe.
Yeah, over to you, Lionel.
Thank you. Yeah, if we should go with the officer's recommendation on this application, will the detailed plan and application come back to us again, or will it go delegated?
Mark, can you answer that one, please?
Yeah. Well, obviously, we would follow the correct process through the Constitution and our delegated authority. So any application would obviously be dealt with in consultation with the parish council and the local member, whoever that may be at the time. And obviously, it would follow the due process, so that there wouldn't be a guarantee. It depended on what came through and whether everybody was happy with the proposal.
Thank you.
Right. Any further questions, Angela?
No, Chairman.
No. So this time we'll go into the committee. It'll be any statements that members want to make, and then eventually, hopefully, we'll get a proposal. Right, Angela.
Yeah, we've got a couple. The first one is Councillor Nicholas.
Yeah, Councillor Nicholas.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm just rather concerned that this PPG basically gives permission in principle, but there is no detail. We have seen that they've already started clearing the site. I have concerns about wildlife that may be in there and being destroyed while we're waiting for a further application, hedges, trees and whatever. So, you know, we can't put any conditions according to paragraph 26 on a PPG. So I'm not happy about that at all.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Any further speakers, Angela?
Yes, Councillor Code.
Yeah, over to you, Graham.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I hear what Sue says, but that's actually, it's PIP, not PPG, permission in principle. And I don't think any of that's relevant to what's being asked of us today. I don't think today we as a planning committee have any grounds to do other than accept the officer's recommendations and approve this for permission in principle. And I so propose.
Yeah, right, that's been proposed. Is there a seconder?
Councillor Kaczmarek has got his hand raised.
Yeah, Mark, over to you.
Councillor Kaczmarek, your microphone is on mute.
Sorry, just to confirm for the committee, I've been here for the entire briefing on this one. I did have to leave a short time, but I've been here for all of this. There is development to three sides of this, and I would support what the recommendation as set out. So I'd second Councillor Coates' proposal.
Yeah, so that's been moved and seconded for the approval as set out in the agenda. Have we got any further speakers, Angela?
Yeah, Ben Kerno from Legal wants to come in.
Yeah, okay, over to you, Ben.
Chair, yeah, I won't keep you. I was just conscious I wouldn't want members to refuse this on the basis of the habitats along Councillor Nicholas's comments. As Mark said to you, the wildlife will be protected when it under separate legislation, so badgers, bats, for instance, and it's not part of our remit on this, but it's still protected, and the applicants would have to be aware of that. It wouldn't be appropriate for us to go down that route, and as Mark's pointed out, we've got a very limited scope really on a permission in principle. They've done quite a lot of them in the East Committee. We haven't had so many of them in this area.
Yeah, right, thank you. Are there any further speakers, Angela?
Yes, Mark Broomhead from Planning wants to come in.
Mark?
Yeah, just before members go to the vote, if the case officer could put up the map that showed the other site that was referred to for 8 dwellings. Yeah, I just want to draw members' attention to that, because we did go with the local member in terms of the green gap, but we actually got full costs awarded against us for trying to defend that, because it wasn't justified. And obviously, looking at that plan, that would have more of a chance, in my view, than this current proposal. I just want to make sure members are aware of that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman.
Have you got any further speakers, Angela?
No.
Right, so it's been moved and seconded for approval as printed in the agenda. So we'll go over to Angela for roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Councillor Baston.
Against.
Councillor Biggs.
Against.
Councillor Code.
For.
Councillor Harding.
For.
Councillor Hurd.
Against.
Barrett.
For.
Councillor Martin.
Against.
Councillor Nicholas.
Against.
Councillor Pascoe.
For.
Councillor Simmons.
Against.
Councillor John Thomas.
For.
Councillor Mike Thomas.
Against.
Just bear with me, I'll count that up. The motion for approval in principle has failed by 5 votes in favour, 7 against and no abstentions. So we don't have anything on the table now.
Right. So we're looking for someone to remove to move the refusal, Angela, is that correct?
Yeah, it'd be refusal or some sort of deferral.
Yeah. So what we're looking for now is somebody wanted to move deferral or refusal.
Do you want me to come in, Chairman?
Yeah. If you mind, Mark, if you can take us out of it.
Yeah, I think it might be best just to go for deferral and just to clarify some points that members were raising in terms of well, there was raising the flooding issues. I've addressed that, but I can make further clarification for you on that. And obviously the habitats, but there again, I made a clear statement on that, but if you want it further clarified, and I think some members made reference to the highways, and I can just clarify that in detail for the next meeting.
Right.
That's what members want.
Yeah, you heard what Mr. Broomhead has said. Is there somebody willing to make a proposal along those lines?
I've made I put my hand up, Sharon.
Yeah, I can't see from here, sorry. Angela, Councillor John Thomas, over to you, John.
Yeah, move refusal on it, Madam Chair. Mr. Chairman, sorry.
You're moving refusal, not what Mr. Broomhead said.
Chairman, the next hand up is Councillor Nicholas.
Right. So first of all, I'll go see if there's a seconder for Councillor Thomas.
Yes, Chairman.
Yeah, that's Councillor Hurd.
Yes, I'll second Councillor Thomas.
Right, thank you. Right, Councillor Nicholas. Are you muted, Sue?
I was happy to go with the deferral, but I'm quite happy to go with the refusal as well, because I don't think we've got enough detail.
Thank you.
Can I just come back, Chairman?
Yeah.
I think you've got to be very careful, because I haven't got any reasons on the table, and as we've pointed out, it's very limited on what you can ask for at this stage. So it has to be on a land use reason, and nobody's put any reason to as a proposal or seconder.
Yeah, right. So I noticed Ben wants to come in as well from legal advice.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. Yeah, I just agree with Mark. I think we're in quite a dangerous position, aren't we, in terms of an appeal? So I would urge members to go for deferral if you can. And we haven't really had any reasons, have we, for a refusal? I still think we're possibly looking to go beyond our scope of a PIP, which is quite limited. So deferral would be appropriate, but obviously it's up to members.
Yeah, right. Councillor John Thomas.
As the proposer, then, Madam Mr. Chairman. Sorry, I said that again. Yeah, I'm quite glad to lift my objection or refusal motion now. And I think if there is scope there for discussion, then I'll do it my seconder, Chairman, but I'll go for deferral.
Yeah, along the grounds that Mr. Broomhead said.
Yeah, along the grounds that Marcus said.
So I'll just, the seconder was Sue Nicholas, was it?
No, it's John Hurd.
I go along with that as well, Chairman.
Yeah, okay then.
Go for deferral.
So, right, so Mr. Broomhead, could you just read out the reasons for deferral and then we'll go from there?
as I understand, it was to look at further on the issues of flooding, loss of habitats, and the highway access.
Thank you. Are you happy with that, Councillor John Thomas?
Yes, I am, Chairman.
And Councillor Hurd?
Yes, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, okay, so that's what I'll put to the vote then. It will be...
Chairman, Councillor Biggs, can I come in, please? I've had my hand up for a while.
Sorry, yeah, right.
Just a question really for Mr. Broomhead. Would it also be appropriate to, in the motion for deferment, to ask about the land use and whether and how that sits with the emerging neighbourhood plan and what weight would be given to that?
Mr. Broomhead, could you come back on that one?
Well, I could answer that now. I mean, obviously it's down to the proposer and seconder, but if you want clarification on if they want further clarification on the emerging local plan, which hasn't got any weight to be a justification to refuse development at this stage, but if you want me to, obviously it stands as proposer and seconder, if you want further clarification in the report on the emerging neighbourhood plan, by all means.
Yeah, I'll take your advice through you, Chairman. I'll take your advice on that, Mr. Broomhead, and I think it's advisable to just make note of that, please.
Yeah, and Councillor Hurd, you're happy with that?
Yes, I accept that.
Yeah, Angela, I can't see if you've got any further hands in the air. But
No, there aren't any more.
They're not. So if everybody's happy, we'll put that to the vote. It will be for deferral on the grounds that Mr. Broomhead is given. So it'll be by roll call. So over to you, Angela.
Thank you. Councillor Baston.
4.
Councillor Biggs.
4.
Councillor Code.
Against.
Councillor Harding.
4.
Councillor Hurd.
4.
Councillor Kaczmarek.
Against.
Martin.
4.
Councillor Nicholas. Councillor Nicholas. Thank you. Councillor Pascoe.
4.
Councillor Simmons.
4.
John Thomas.
4.
And Councillor Mike Thomas.
4.
Okay, I'll just count that up. The deferral has been approved by 10 votes in favour, 2 against and no abstentions.
Right, thank you. So with that, we go on to item 5. That is any urgent business that's been brought to the chairman, which there is none. But before everybody disappear, as you realise, this is our last meeting as a committee. And I think it'd be amiss of me if I didn't sort of make a few thank yous. I've got to really thank Mark Broomhead and David Eckingsmith and Angela Saunders for the work that they've done behind the scenes in preparing for the committee and the support that they've given me. There's many officers that we as a committee have got to thank for their professional way which they've gone about the preparing for the meetings and reports they've given, and putting up with us for some of the decisions we've made. And then finally, I've got to thank the committee. We've all got different opinions. We've probably got different political persuasions, but I think the way we've conducted the meetings have been in a professional, respectful and a polite manner, and I thank you for that. I have chaired a few committees in the past, and as I say, as far as respect etc. goes, this one has been an easy committee to chair. I think we've seen some of the future. We started off on this committee. We were the first committee that did the virtual meeting, which, we started off with 1 item on the agenda. From there on, we went up to 8. And thinking back over the West Area Planning Committee, I've been in there from the beginning. I don't know, I think Councillor Biggs might have been around. I don't know if anybody else was actually on the committee at the time, and we've gone from 2-day meetings, and then we've done our rounds of venues, At Dolcove, we started off in the old council chamber. Down at Penzance, we're up at the old Penwith offices. We've been in the magistrates court, and then we've been at the new offices at Dolcove, which I must say that poor old Pam Lyne, she held numerous meetings to design that office, and I think we fell short on that. We've been through issues with microphones and everything, and still at the end of the day, I think the committee has been well received, and obviously we've progressed the committee we've got today. We came through the peer review, and I think we've got a committee that is respected at the end of the day, and I must say that I've been privileged and honoured to chair it. So with that, it's a final wish, safe journey home and all the best for the future for all those that are fighting elections. Good luck, and good luck to those that are retiring. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roger, and I'll echo those sympathies and remarks, and good luck to everybody in the elections, because I won't be standing. So,
thank you, Chairman. It's Mark Broomhead. I just want to thank all the members personally, as well as on behalf of my team, because I feel that we've had a really good working relationship, and we've also understood each other's issues and worked together and moved on to the next one. And I can wish for a better working relationship with all of you. And I'd just like to thank you all for making my life somewhat easier at times.
And Chair, I would like to
five or the minute mark.
Yeah, right.
I would like to make a comment and thank you, Chairman, for the way in which you've conducted the meetings. I've served under two chairmen in this council, both excellent chairmen, Councillor Kaczmarek and yourself. Different, but both excellent, both calm, cool, collected, and I think the way in which you have adapted and managed the committee in the new environment we've had over the last 12 months has been really fantastic. So thank you to you, Chairman, and my thanks also to the committee who made my job easier as well. Good luck to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks. Bye.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks and goodbye to everybody as well. Take care.